Hello, musical theater lovers, and today we're going to be talking about how Hamilton changed not only the Broadway landscape, but ushered in a new age and a new wave of Broadway fans who created animatics, fan art, but also created something that's known as a toxic fandom, and how competing shows would often clash in terms of fans, and exactly how this has changed the Broadway community and musical theater in general. My name is Nigel Safesha, and let's begin the video. So, if you don't know, Hamilton is an extremely popular musical that gained traction back in 2015 when it went off-Broadway. It started off at the Richard Rodgers Theater in 2015. When it opened, the show premiered to unprecedented box office success and raves from critics and audiences alike. People like the President, Steven Spielberg, and many more celebrities went and saw Hamilton and praised the show. Clearly something special was being made on Broadway right now. And it won big at the Tonys, where it was nominated for 16 Tony nominations and ended up winning, I believe, 12, or was it 11? I don't fact check these things, but somewhere along. And as expected, the show brought home Best Musical, Best Music, Best Book, and is now going on to its fourth year on Broadway. The show has been an unprecedented success and has had multiple productions, both in touring, London, and many other places. Even an own exhibition and app. But I don't want to be talking about Hamilton too much. And then we got Dear Evan Hansen, which, like Hamilton, broke box office records, has become part of the pop culture world and part of the zeitgeist, and thus far made Ben Platt a huge name, winning him a Tony along with the show winning Best Musical. Meanwhile, the internet was blowing up about Broadway. Stuff like fan animatics, fan art, fan accounts like Broadway for Me and B-Way videos were becoming a mainstream thing. Soon shows that were thought that like B-More Chill were brought back to Broadway due to fan passion and its huge impact on the internet. See, if it weren't for Dear Evan Hansen and Hamilton, I don't think Broadway would be as big as it is today, and why it has the huge presence it does on social media and on the internet. Apps like TikTok resurrected shows like Heathers, which played off Broadway and has had a huge cult following due to the internet, and has now become one of the most popular TikTok memes. SpongeBob the Musical got its own hardcore fan base, which at first was just haters and doubters, but quickly became a dedicated and passionate fan base that loved and cared for the show so much that they were willing to go to war with anyone who said otherwise. But anyways, this leads to the problem of toxic fandom. Back in 2018, when SpongeBob and Band's Visit were both up for Best Musical, Band's Visit won out, and SpongeBob fans were, to be honest, very much displeased with this and the fact that it only got 2 Tony nominations. The Band's Visit won big that night, winning 10 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. And while all of these awards were deserved, there was a big rivalry between Band's Visit fans and SpongeBob fans, with SpongeBob fans saying that SpongeBob was robbed and the Band's Visit shouldn't have gotten the awards they've gotten. The whole idea of this show deserved better than this show is a completely absurd idea, and is one that is very poisonous and toxic, which is why it's called a toxic fandom. Now, fandoms can help support a show like Be More Chill and Heathers and can resurrect them and bring them back to Broadway, but they can also hurt a show and their fan base and make the show in turn look bad. This year it was Hadestown fans versus BMC fans. Last year it was SpongeBob fans versus The Band's Visit. See, fandoms are a double-edged sword. Fandoms can help your show grow, thrive, succeed, and become more mainstream. But on the other hand, they can also become very toxic and give your show a sense of entitlement, thinking that it's better than other shows, when in reality, all shows are equal because creatives, cast, crew all work just as equally as hard on every show. And every show in reality deserves some kind of recognition. But it's not up to us fans to decide on which shows do, and it's also not up to us to start debates and fights and just admit that all shows are equal and are of the same quality, no matter how much we love them. Just like the toxic fandom, Hamilton is also a double-edged sword for Broadway. In one sense, it brought it back into the mainstream, and regularly Broadway albums are on the top 10 or top 100, or even in the number 1 when their first day of release in soundtrack. Without Hamilton, we wouldn't have fan animatics, fan accounts, fan art. None of that would exist, and shows like Be More Chill, Heathers wouldn't even be a possibility when they would come back to the UK or Broadway. It also allowed producers to open up their minds to more risky shows like Natasha P. and the Great Comet of 1812, an immersive show that had not been done on Broadway, or Hadestown, a show that originated off Broadway, and really felt like one of those shows that was experimental and not really a Broadway type show, but made it because producers had their minds open, and I think we have to attribute this to Hamilton. And if it weren't for that show, I don't think we would be seeing the daring kind of groundbreaking theater that we're seeing today, and producers taking way more risks on shows and us getting shows that we didn't even know were possible for musical theater. Now, don't get me wrong, Broadway has a ton to owe to Hamilton and revitalizing it and putting it back in the mainstream, but it's also a double-edged sword. Take, for example, the marketing of Great Comet and Be More Chill. Great Comet was marketed as the next big thing, the next Hamilton. Be More Chill was marketed as the same thing. It was described as Little Shop meets Dear Evan Hansen. But here's the thing. By comparing your show to other shows, it doesn't give your show a sense of identity. See, shows like Hamilton don't come around that often. They come around every decade or so. Shows like Phantom of the Opera, Wicked, they were not in any close proximity in terms of years. And here's the thing. They brought Broadway back in the mainstream. It made it revitalized. It showed producers what they could do with musical theater. And that does not happen a lot. And that's not because of the quality of a show. That's not because of, no, it's not good enough. But it's simply because it's all about timing. And it's like one of those blue moon things. It's simply all about just every show, and again, the genre needs to be redefined. But that does not happen all the time. And if it did, then the genre wouldn't need to be redefined at all. And then it would just become stale and old. And I don't think that's what people want at all. There's also a misconception about shows being the next big thing. You know, they compare it to Hamilton, or in the days of Phantom, they said it was the next Phantom. See, a show can't be like any other show because it's its own thing and its own identity. I feel like this is a common flaw that a lot of Broadway marketers do, and that's that they compare it to being the next big thing. And because you've had this next big thing type thing, I think a lot of people nowadays assume that a show has to be super deep and meaningful and have a lot of political commentary. Not every show has to do this, and that's become a big issue for shows like Something Rotten, a big hit musical comedy that very much is the old-fashioned Broadway, but doesn't succeed because audiences simply don't want that, or at least they don't think they want. Shows like Something Rotten, The Prom, are all quality shows, but because they don't have that best musical, it's not the next big thing, people won't instantly go to it. They'll go to the next big thing, or a very familiar source like Ain't Too Proud, or Beetlejuice, or The Lion King, or even Frozen. I think all audience members have to get out of the mentality that everything is going to be revolutionary and the next big thing, and appreciate every show and realize that just as much work and creativity went into every show than Hamilton or Dear Evan Hansen. It was all equal. And just like the fan bases, we have to learn to respect the shows and continue to support and love the arts. Hamilton was a double-edged sword. It made Broadway go back into the mainstream, but it also created a toxic fan base, but it also created one that was passionate and that did so much good for the theatrical world. And that is something that we should all be thankful for. And at the end of the day, everyone's putting in their 100% for every show. And that's something that doesn't come around that often. Live theater is amazing, and we all should support it. So continue to love and have passion for your shows, but don't fight, and instead come together and realize that everything is created just as equally. I think all Broadway audiences should not tear shows down, but bring all shows up, and realize that all shows are equal, and not everything is going to be the next thing, and that's okay. Because theater is beautiful and amazing, and in turn, you should give every show a chance, even if it isn't the next big thing.